but we are especially excited for you to be here today for our session. I'm going to go ahead and let me share my screen. Thanks everybody for being patient while I get everything up and running. Okay. And let's see if it's going to work. Okay. Does it look, oh, wait, sorry. Let me change my setting real quick. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Does this look okay to you right now? Those of you who are watching? Excellent, excellent. Also, if you could please, when you get a chance, if you could please introduce yourself in the chat, we would greatly appreciate it. Share your name and any sort of affiliation you have. If you are working somewhere, if you're at a college, or just a little bit about who you are, that would be great. We are here today with a Teach for the Bay. This is the 5th Teach for the Bay. And this Teach for the Bay is focusing on the Vision 2030, which is coming out of the Chancellor's Office and the community college system, and focusing on centering teachers. Today, I am here with my colleague from Department of Education, and we are going to be sharing with you some information about the ECE workforce. My name is Renee Marshall. In just a minute, I'll get into a full introduction of who I am. But today, we're going to be talking about California's early childhood education workforce. We're going to be specifically talking from the perspective of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing and the California Department of Education. So with that, let's do some introductions. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague at Department of Education, Shanna, to just introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanna Burkholz-Vasquez, and I am the administrator of the UPK Implementation and Support Office in the Early Education Division at CDE. And my office does a lot of the work around the P3 initiative. We also do the UPK Planning and Implementation Grant, and we also support one of the other offices with work around the workforce. And so I'm just really happy to be here with you all today.
Thank you so much, Shanna. I really appreciate getting the opportunity to work with you. And we're so lucky that we get to work with and just honored to work with California's current teachers and future teachers. My name is Renee Marshall, everybody, and I am an administrator at the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. I have the honor of working with everything related to early childhood education teacher preparation. And we're so happy that you're here today. Your influence in California's children and California's education is significant. And by you being here today, it just once again confirms your commitment to California's children and California's schools. I do want to make one note, my friends and colleagues. Today is the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, and I apologize that our session was scheduled during this time. It was a misstep on my part, and please know in the future we'll make sure to be more aware of our Jewish colleagues' holidays and make sure that we can try our best to plan around it. I do want to know that if you have, or do want to share that if you have any colleagues who are celebrating today, tomorrow, any duration of Teach for the Bay, please feel free to reach out to us. We will make sure that we get recordings, slide decks, and as much of the content as possible to our colleagues, because we want to make sure that we're always keeping an equity lens and equity focus and making sure that everybody has access to the information. So I apologize for that misstep, and just appreciate the opportunity to do things better in the future. That's what this is all about. So let's go ahead to our next slide. Let's see if I can get it to work. There we go. So we just had our introductions, just a little bit about, wait, did I even say, I officially introduced, didn't I? Okay. Sorry, it's been a long day, but we had our introductions. We are going to spend a few minutes getting into everything related to California's youngest learners. We're going to start off with an overview of Universal PK, Universal Pre-Kindergarten, UPK. You might have heard that before. We're also going to talk for a bit about employment and hiring trends. If you are interested in a career in early childhood education, Shannon and I have great news. This is a good time. You are absolutely needed and your expertise is needed, and we're definitely going to get into that tonight. We're also going to spend some time talking about supporting the workforce, supporting the early childhood education workforce, and some supports that are available. We're going to take a few minutes to talk just briefly about the PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. Some of you were just in that longer session. We just had a breakout right before this, it was led by Bronwyn Kennedy, who is the lead consultant on the PK3 ECE credential. And Bronwyn's here right now and brings her expertise. We appreciate you, Bronwyn. I also want to give one more shout out. We are going to be talking about this just briefly in this presentation, Bronwyn is doing a second presentation on the PK3 ECE credential on Friday. And that to register for that, it's available in the Teach for the Bay flipbook. Highly suggest you go to that session. It's going to dive much deeper into that PK3 credential. After Shanna and I explore the PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential, I'm then going to take a couple minutes to talk and share about the Child Development Permit, kind of some things that are happening right now and some things that are going to be happening moving forward. From there, Shanna and I will share some resources, both from Department of Education and the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and then we're going to spend some time getting into Q&A. I also want to share everybody, since I'm sharing slide deck right now, I am not simultaneously watching chat. Once I remove slide deck towards the end, when we get to the Q&A, I will get into chat. If there's anything we miss, we will absolutely make sure that we follow up. Also want to share that we will drop the commission website where you can reach out to our ECE team. That includes me, Bronwyn Kennedy, and Dr. Debbie Keeler. That email goes out to all three of us at the same time. We'll make sure we share that. And if you have any questions, especially any individual questions, we're here in partnership, everybody. All of us have been teachers. Like Shanna's been a teacher, Bronwyn's been a teacher, I've been a teacher. We've been in preschool. I've also been in K-12. We've been administrators. We've served a lot of different roles here. We know how confusing it can be to become a teacher. So we're here in partnership and we are here to help you. And we just want to make sure that we get that message totally across. And for those of you who are future teachers who are joining us tonight, those of you that are, I know we have some classrooms zooming in joining us, just know that you are coming into one of the best fields ever. I started off actually doing after school care, then became a preschool teacher, and honestly thought I was going to spend my entire career being a kindergarten teacher because that was my magic. I loved 5-year-olds. And then other opportunities opened up. So, and then I've had the chance to do all sorts of things. I was a college professor. I've worked at the commission. I've just done all sorts of things. So that's what today is about. This session's about the ECE workforce and just all the possibilities that exist for you. So wherever you are in your teacher development, even if you've been in the field 20 years, hopefully when you leave tonight, you're going to have some other ideas of just other possibilities for you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Shanna, and she's going to start off on some great slides from Department of Ed. Also want to share with everybody, we will absolutely be sharing this slide deck with you. So don't think that you need to take screenshots or anything like that. We will email it out to everybody. Okay.
Thank you, Renee. Renee is very hard to follow. She is always so enthusiastic and such an amazing speaker. So I will do my best. I wanted to start out by sharing a little bit of context for universal pre-kindergarten implementation in California. So I think it's really important that we understand that UPK is actually just one of California's universal investments aimed at transforming our education system. As you can see on that circle up there, there are a number of different investments that have been made. You'll notice that you'll see universal access to expanded learning opportunities and universal meals for all children. There's been additional funding directed at expanding community schools and school mental health programs, and also enhancing professional learning, anti-bias education, and supports for multilingual learners. And so, as you'll see, UPK implementation in California is only one piece of the circle. And in order for California to achieve its equity goals in education, and those goals are to meet the needs of all children and to set them up for success in learning and life, all of those pieces that you see on the screen are absolutely critical. Next slide. So I wanted to do a little bit of a walk down history memory lane, because it feels as if TK was a decision that the governor announced and had a really quick timeline for its expansion and its implementation, but it did not happen overnight. We've been working towards this and preparing for this expansion for 2 decades. So the change really began for California with the California Readiness Act of 2010. The act gradually changed California's kindergarten entry date from December 2nd to September 1st. And it created a program for children who would have previously been eligible for kindergarten, and they called it Transitional Kindergarten, or TK. So what this historic legislation actually meant was that more than 120,000 children had access to an additional year of high quality early learning And as a result, we're better prepared to succeed in kindergarten and beyond. But then when Gavin Newsom became governor, he commissioned a master plan for early education and care. And this master plan that some of you may be aware of brought together experts, policymakers, and practitioners across California to put forward a roadmap for building a comprehensive and equitable early learning and care system over the next decade. This was released in December of 2020, and it called for universal preschool for all 4-year-old children. Then legislation in 2021 required school districts to phase in the expansion of TK, or transitional kindergarten, building toward a full universal program in the school year 2025-26. To date, California has invested a total of $1.4 billion to add spaces for children and to support an additional staff person in each TK classroom that has a ratio of 1 adult to every 12 students. We know that these changes have been difficult. And, we're still working on making everything better, but these investments we feel were a necessary step for growth and improvement in our system. If we can go on to the next slide, I just wanted to share that UPK in California includes transitional kindergarten, Head Start, and the California State Preschool Program. Other preschool programs and the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program are our essential partners in supporting access for all 4-year-old children. And we see this, as next slide, as a continuum. And so I really love this graphic right here because it shows how UPK is embedded in our broader initiative to align early learning experiences from preschool through 3rd grade. As so many of you know, the system has often been really 2 different systems: the early learning and care system, which included 0 to 3 in pre-K, and then our K-12 system, now TK-12 system. And what we're really hoping is that through the implementation of UPK and the expansion of transitional kindergarten, we can build a coherent P3 system. And some of the work we've done to achieve that are the new the preschool transitional kindergarten learning foundations, and some of our other work that I'll talk about in a little while. Next slide.
Shanna, I also just want to give a plug. I think just next week we have a community circle. I believe it's next week. Maybe it's the week after, actually. Bronwyn, correct me on that. We have some staff some leads from the California Department of Education are going to be coming in to be talking about the learning foundations and kind of what the update has been like. And so we have that coming up. I think it might be on October 15th. We'll try and either get that dropped in the chat or email everybody who's on. So that way, if they want to learn more about what changes have happened in those, they can go ahead, and we have something coming up soon.
Awesome. Perfect timing. All right, next slide. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is about the mixed delivery work group that CDE hosted in December of 2022. CDE was legislatively tasked with convening a UPK mixed delivery quality and access work group. This was done in partnership with the California State Board of Education, the California Department of Social Services, and the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. This work group met monthly for about a year and a half and came up with recommendations related to increasing access to high quality universal preschool programs for children and providing recommendations to update California state preschool standards. And so part of the work group, part of their work was around the workforce. And what really shown was that the need for a well-prepared and well-supported workforce, that was a key component in the recommendations from the work group. And so the report to the legislature on behalf of the work group included recommendations, many that pertain to the workforce. A sample can be seen here on this slide. You can also find the full report on our webpage, and I will put a link in the chat in just a minute. But you'll see that some of the recommendations that were put forth by the work group were ensuring job-embedded professional learning is aligned with the preschool quality standards and emphasize the development of competencies related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. There was another one on staff professional learning aligned to the preschool TK learning foundations and the desired results developmental profile. Then you'll see we had identify and promote resources that support educators to reflect on social justice issues, examining bias, including racism and ableism, develop cultural competence, and consider how bias may impact their practice. We also have uplift to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, how current requirements of the administrative service credential preclude ECE staff, many of whom have knowledge of child development and experience in preschool programs with monitored preschool. So to elevate potential changes that would allow individuals like this with preschool teaching and administrative experience to obtain the administrative services credential. And then also to provide technical assistance and guidance on cultural and linguistic responsiveness and implicit bias for all UPK trainers, observers, coaches, coordinators, and fetch-in administrators. And so you can see we have already started to work on some of the recommendations that were put forth, and we hope to continue to work on the rest of them as funding and time becomes available. We'll go on to the next slide.
And just quickly on the bullet that says elevate changes to administrative credential requirements could increase the number of qualified administrators. I just wanted to mention everybody that the commission anticipates that there will be a work group related to the administrative credential coming up in 2025. So that will be, and hopefully there will be work group members that elevate the need to really include a comprehensive foundation in early childhood education for all administrators that are going to be TK through 12 moving forward. So just want to share that that's one of the recommendations right there, that we know there's going to be a work group to really dive into that with experts from the field coming up in 2025. So just a heads up, everybody, if you do not currently subscribe to the PSD news out of the commission, we'll give you information on how to subscribe to that, because at some point there'll be a call out that says, we are looking for experts to come and have a conversation for the next couple months or possibly a year about this actual topic, about the administrative credential and then the piece of early childhood education. How does it fit? So just want to share that, because I know there's some of you on right now who might be interested in engaging in that type of a work group, and we need your expertise. That's how these recommendations then become standard practice, and what we do. So thank you so much, Shanna. I will move to the next slide.
Awesome. Thank you. Great additions. So as Renee mentioned, I also have been an educator and in administration for over 30 years. And so I know firsthand, as we all know in this room, that it's essential, the essential role that educators play in educating our young children. As Renee said, it's the best field ever. I believe that's your quote. And we know it requires a skill set with a foundational understanding of how to support young children's developmental needs, and expertise in designing joyful learning activities that captivate children's natural curiosity. And so I just wanted to share that according to the Center of the Study of Child Care Employment in 2020, so it's not the most up to date, but about half of California's early educators are multilingual. And in the Bay Area, that's about 39%. In the Bay Area, at least 72% of early educators are BIPOC, and almost all the staff are identified as women. So that's just a little bit about our workforce in 2020. And if we go on to the next slide, we talked about how essential they are. Now let's talk about, what our current needs are. So similar to most states, California is experiencing a workforce shortage. We estimate the need of up to 8,700 additional teachers for TK by 2025-26. Some of these positions are being filled by existing early childhood education teachers that work with preschoolers, but not in the public education system. But not all. And according to UC Berkeley's Center for the Study of Child Care Employment and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, childcare jobs in the nation have increased steadily since 2020. As of June of 2024, there are 82,000 childcare jobs in existence in California. So we know that there's a great need. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to talk about how we support teachers so that they stay in the field, which is so important.
Shanna, one other piece real quick In addition to those TK teachers, we also need the support role person in those classrooms as well. So we shared that 8,700 certified teacher number, but I don't know off the top of my head the number that we need for the classroom, but it's important to note for those of you who are a paraeducator or who are partway through the process of becoming a credentialed teacher, that's another potential position that may be of interest to you. So I want to make sure to share that too, because it's we got teachers, but we've got the certificated and classified piece of this, which to me is just really exciting. And now this part that you're going to share here, how do we have some financial support to go alongside this? Love it.
Absolutely. So we want to talk about the state's worked to meet the demand for qualified teachers in TK and beyond, and has provided some flexibilities for school districts to invest in teacher recruitment and hiring and career pathways. Across programs, California has invested nearly $3 billion in programs to support teacher preparation and professional development. While all of these investments recognize and prioritize the importance of culturally responsive practices and recruiting a diverse workforce, two investments I want to talk about specifically emphasize support for historically marginalized communities. We have the CDE Early Education Teacher Development Grant, and that was $100 million of one-time funds that can be spent through 2026. This grant is part of the UPK Planning and Implementation Grant, and it was provided to local educational agencies to both increase the number of early educators available to serve in the California State Preschool Program and Transitional Kindergarten, and to increase competencies for early educators within CSPP, TK, or kindergarten programs. We have 72 grantees representing 894 LEAs throughout the state who received that grant. And then also we have the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing Teacher Residency Grant Program, and that was $650 million through 2026. Renee, are you going to talk more about that grant in your slides?
Not in my slides, but I do want to share that there might be an additional funding source coming. We are waiting for hopefully really good news in the next few days. And so once we have that other source that might be coming up, we'll be sharing that one as well. So it's what's most important here is there's additional funds that might be coming. We want to make sure that consistent support goes through.
Awesome. All right, now I'll pass it to you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let me go to our next slide. Robbie, do you have a quick question before we move on to the next slide?
I would like to know if we could circle back to sort of the elephant in the room when it regards like San Francisco Unified School District and the funding models that you've described, given the current emergency situation that we have in the district regarding, lack of educators, a lapse in allocated funds to hire, deficits that are reaching into the next school year. The mayor has a task force that's been developed that is going into, kind of like emergency negotiation. I'm wondering if this is not the right forum for that, I understand, but I'm wondering if there's any information that can be kind of like, put out there regarding the 25-26 school year so that even though all these things might be happening now, they might be alleviated in the future. I understand there's a proposition on the ballot for November, so which could alleviate a lot of this. So if there's any way to speak to some of the sort of the political economy of it.
I'm not sure if we can speak to the political economy like on the spot, Robbie, but one thing though I think we can say is it sounds like from what you're saying that it's necessary for some additional messaging and some additional communication to get out. And so that's something that I think we could work along with our sister agency at the CDE to see what additional information can be shared with the districts and LEAs. So that way they know that there are some resources. I understand that some districts are absolutely in a dire time right now. So I don't want to pretend like that's not what's happening, because there are some districts that are absolutely struggling right now. And if we need to have some additional messaging about future resources that we know might be coming down the pipeline, Robbie, we can absolutely work on that. I'm sorry that's not like the full answer, but you know me, I always try and keep it totally honest with you, and I can tell you like what we can do versus what we can't. So, but I do think that we could improve some communication, and Shanna and I can talk. One of the great things is Our ECE teams at both Department of Ed and the Commission on Teacher Credentialing meet consistently. Shannon and I have a one-on-one meeting. Our teams come together at least once a month, sometimes even twice a month. You will often see that you'll see overlap in our presentations. We always try to back each other up and make sure we're there to answer the questions that are appropriate for our agencies. But by all means, there's more opportunity for us to work together, and knowing that communication is a place where you're never perfect with your communication. You can always get better. I think that's an area that we can possibly have some conversations with and see if maybe we can get some other additional messaging out about some of those resources and future resources so people can jump into it as soon as possible. Because when you're in a time where you don't have resources, you need to be able to get resources, braid funding, sometimes get really innovative and creative in order to keep things happening. So we can share that. Would that be of help, Robbie, if we got something like that together?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to come from SFUSD. That's for sure. But it's just it'd be nice to know, since we're a relatively large district in the Bay.
Mhm.
It would just be nice to sort of hear how this is financially feasible, given like what we're hearing from the people on the ground in SFUSD versus what we're hearing in sort of what's under development for universal pre-K from the state, because
Mhm.
there's a connection that could be made. And I think thank you for making it a matter of communication, because maybe there is something there, and I don't know if there's a there. So
Totally. Well, and I'm thinking too, Robbie, if you don't mind, maybe we can be invited into some of those spaces. If there's a way that you can invite us into spaces that will allow us to have additional conversations too. So maybe you and I can meet offline and talk a little bit more so we can dive deeper into it. Because you're always a great thought partner. And I'm so grateful that you show up and that we're always working together, Robbie, because that's how we make change, right? Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to dive a little bit now into the PK3 Early Childhood Education Instruction Credential. Really excited to share with everybody about this credential. First off, it's important to note this is the first new credential in California in over 30 years. The PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential focuses on developmentally appropriate practices for young children in grades PK through third. So it's important to note we're literally talking about 4-year-olds up until 8-year-olds. But when we're talking about the PK3 credential, we are talking also about second graders, third graders, first graders, kindergartners. So while it is a credential that is related to transitional kindergarten, it is encompassing TK up to 3. And when you look at how you're credentialed, it's actually PK up to 3. This credential recognizes and sets to value the rich background and extensive experience future teachers and candidates who come from the current ECE field, what they bring to the preparation programs. It's important to note that when we're looking at the PK3 credential, it's important to honor that experience, and also that experience that people have in relationship to the child development permit and leading to the PK3 credential. It's important to note too that this credential came into effect in April of 2024. And when we had this slide made, when we had this slide made and approved from our agencies, at that time we had 5 programs in California that were approved, with more anticipated. Now I can tell everybody who's on here right now for certain, we had 2 more programs officially approved last Thursday. So that list is up to 7 approved programs in the state of California that are offering or plan to offer the PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. It's quite a mouthful. One of the great things too about this list that we have is it is a combination of CSUs, private universities, and county offices of education. They are scattered basically in quite a few regions across California, and are offering a variety of different versions of the program. So there's some interns, there's some residencies, there's some traditional standard student teaching programs. So there's going to be a variety of offerings for people that are interested in getting this credential. Another thing that's important to note too, for those future teachers that go out and obtain this PK3 credential, their time spent in the classroom engaging in learning activities really is going to really help to provide a solid foundation for who they are as educators. These programs that are created for the PK3 credential, well, we want all credential programs to value children and value the funds of knowledge and all the expertise that the families and children bring to the classroom. But this PK3 credential has some certain elements to it that are really going to kind of up the ante there in a very different way. You know, we're in a different time with children now. It's an exciting time. We're looking holistically at children, not just in the early childhood space, but truly throughout TK through 12 education. We're talking about wellness centers and what that looks like for older children. We're even creating wellness centers for younger children. But what it comes down to is we are valuing a child's cognitive, social, their emotional, their linguistic, their cultural experiences, their linguistic experiences, what other relevant background that child has. For the teachers who are going to be trained in the PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist credential, they're going to know developmentally appropriate ways to bring in all that expertise that each of those children bring to the classroom, which is so incredibly exciting. I also want to share, though, just so everybody who's on knows, when we are talking about the PK3 Early Childhood Education credential programs, that process for those groups to get approved is taking about 6 to 12 months. So we have some programs that already kicked off this fall. We have some programs that are planning to kick off in spring or later in 2025. We have about another 20 programs that are somewhere in the process of getting approved. So a year out from now, we could feasibly have almost 30 PK3 credential programs in the state of California being offered. So it's a really exciting time. So also another thing too, for those of you, like if you already have a bachelor's degree and you're looking for that credential program right now, if you start searching and you don't find the exact program that's going to work for you, please know that there's going to be other options that come out. And while each program has to meet a certain set of standards that are issued by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, there's also a lot of flexibility in terms of what they offer and how they offer. So for those future teachers that are on right now with us, please know that you're going to have options. Now, this is a brief slide that's going to cover the PK3 credential. As I mentioned, Bronwyn Kennedy will be giving a presentation on Friday you may want to go to that's going to dive deeper. But let me take just a few minutes to talk about this credential. So the requirements of the PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction credential. First thing, to have a credential in California, it is required that you have a bachelor's degree or higher. So that's important to note. So in order for the PK3 credential, you need a bachelor's degree or higher degree from a regionally accredited institution of higher education. Now, that bachelor's degree satisfies your basic skills. No longer is there a CBEST requirement. Sometimes people used to have to take a CBEST to get a multiple subject credential. That doesn't exist here in the PK3. Your bachelor's degrees is showing that. Now, in terms of the subject matter requirement, that's another part of getting the PK3 Early Childhood Credential Specialist, Early Childhood Specialist Instruction credential. That subject matter requirement is met in one of two ways. You could have a 24 units in early childhood education or child development, or a bachelor's degree or above in one of 9 specific majors. Now, in the past, it was that you had to take the CSET to prove your subject matter competency. That is not the case for this credential. This one requires you to have either 24 units of early childhood ed or bachelor's or above in 9 specific majors. Those majors are all like kind of under the umbrella of early childhood education. One thing I want to note too, say for instance, you have a bachelor's degree in a different subject area that's close but not directly on the list. Please know at the commission, we would look at your transcripts. We would pull to see if it's an equivalency. So by all means, we're hoping that you fall under those 9 categories or those 9 majors. If you don't, though, there are other ways to kind of see if maybe you match for that equivalency, for that subject matter requirement piece. Number 3, another piece of getting this credential is the completion of a preliminary PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential Program. So completing a program is part of this. Now, within that program, your teacher preparation coursework is going to include theory and pedagogy. You're going to include clinical practice. It's going to include practicing the teaching performance expectations, those TPEs. When it comes to the teaching performance expectations, it's important that future teachers get a chance to introduce those, get a chance to practice the TPEs, and also as a part of the loop, get a chance to assess those teaching performance expectations. In addition to these other pieces here, this credential also includes a new literacy, math, and diversity, equity, and inclusion standards and teaching performance expectations. Now, lastly, in order to get this credential, you will need to pass a commission-approved teaching performance assessment. That could be the Cal TPA, Ed TPA, or the FAST. The FAST is an assessment that's specifically related to Fresno. So, and it's for not Fresno City College, sorry. CSU Fresno State. Another option is the RECA, or Literacy Performance Assessment. And it's important for everybody to know the RECA is a current option for this, but the RECA will be sunsetting at the end of June 2025. And at that point, it will be replaced with the Literacy Performance Assessment. And then eventually, this isn't available yet, but eventually there will be a PK3 performance assessment when available. And so that would be one of the options there. Now we're going to switch just slightly over a little bit. So that was about the PK3 early childhood education credential. There's been a lot going on in ECE, everybody, is what it comes down to. Shanna and all of our colleagues at the CDE can attest to this. So we've also had some information happening about the child development permit. So it's important to note that the child development permit originated in 1993 and has not had any significant changes to it, has not been updated since in 2002, the school age emphasis was added to the permit matrix. When you're looking at the child development permit, now this is something that you, as the permit stands right now, you can be getting your units and be eligible for different levels of permits. So there's, as of right now, there's 6 levels of teaching permits. There's assistant, associate teacher, teacher, master teacher, site supervisor, and program director. And your site supervisor and your program director are more of like administrative positions that you fulfill while working with younger children. And it's important to note, though, over the past year, there's been a work group that has been working on the child development permit to make sure that it's matching with the current needs of the workforce, plus also matching with the current needs of children in the classroom. So there's a note here on this side that says, the transition to a competency-based system of preparation and licensure for the early childhood workforce was called for by the Master Plan in Early Learning and Care. And with the advent of UPK and the PK3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential, has resulted in the Commission's work updating the Child Development Permit Matrix. So the Child Development Permit Matrix currently has 6 levels on it right now. For those of you who have a current permit, your permit, you can remain on that. You have property rights and you can remain on that permit matrix. Now, in October actually later this month, we will be giving the Commission will be giving a presentation to the commissioners on the recommendations of a work group that's just happened for the past year. And we'll be asking for direction to go out to the field to get more information about the recommendations. And then we plan to go back to the Commission in February of 2025 to present at that time the analysis of the field survey that we do. So if the commissioners want to move forward with the proposed recommendations of the CDP work group, then there will be a new matrix that will come into effect. And I mentioned, for those of you who currently have a permit, you will stay on the current matrix as long as you keep your renewals up to date. For those who maybe 2 years from now decide to get their first child development permit, they will most likely be on the new permit matrix. We anticipate that it will be probably at least 18 months to 2 years, possibly even longer before that's in effect, but we want to make sure that we share it with everybody. So we have just a little bit of information too about that work group that just took place. So the Child Development Permit Work Group, we had 28 members that engaged. We also had some liaisons that joined us as well from some of the state agencies. It was really exciting. We had the application went out, I believe it was either June or July of last year. The work group first came together in August of 2023. We had the opportunity to meet almost monthly, not exactly, but almost monthly, from August of 2023 to June of 2024. We also had a celebratory meeting in July of 2024 as well. During this time also, the work group was tasked with the following questions. How should the current permit structure be revised, updated, and/or modified to ensure that early childhood educators have the knowledge and skills needed to meet the developmental needs of children. The second question that they were tasked with was, how can the state best monitor and ensure quality and preparation of the ECE workforce within the resources available? And the third question proposed to the work group was, how should the teaching performance expectations be reorganized to align with the proposed new structure for the child development permit? So this group was given a very, a significant task. As I mentioned, the work group process began in summer of 23. We had 8 group meetings that went from August to June of the following year, with the celebration coming up that happened in July. It's important to note, everybody, we were very lucky in that we were able to have expanded opportunities for input from the field during the course of this work group. We had public comment available public comment times available at every single one of our work group sessions. In addition, we did some things. We were lucky. We did not have to go under Bagley-Keene, so we didn't have kind of strict rules in terms of how we were running the meetings with the child development permit. And so that allowed us to do some innovative things as well with that work group. One example being, when the work group members would go to breakouts in the past, public would kind of just stay on mute and just be quiet during breakout sessions, or they would get a chance to maybe listen. But during this work group, when the work group members would go to breakouts, we would also open a public breakout to engage the public in conversation about whatever the topic or the task was of the work group. And we tried our best to capture those moments as well. Something else that was really exciting with the child development permit work group. Now, I mentioned that we're going to be going out for field review later on this month. That field review will continue through about mid-November. There'll be a big survey that's coming out. We hope all of you will respond to it. We're hoping at least 1,000 of our colleagues in the field will share what they believe about the recommendations that are being proposed. And it's important to note, though, that during the course of this work group, actually, Bronwyn Kennedy, who I have mentioned before, she led a series of focus groups in in early 2024, and also helped to lead a survey that went out. And it was just a dipstick. It was a beginning survey, just getting a bit of information. But midway during this work group, we were actually able to engage with over 500 people from the field of early childhood education to get their perspectives on how things were going and how things should move along. And so that was great. We're excited for this next field study that's going to go out, the survey that's going to go out. We can't wait to see how people respond and what they have to share. We tried to include a balance of qualitative and quantitative questions. So there'll be standard questions asked about all the different pieces of the matrix, but there'll also be open text boxes where you'll be able to share some narrative in terms of what you believe is working or not going to work, and just, as much information as you're willing to share. In addition, we wanted to share also that the work group meeting summaries, we have a meeting summary from every single one of these work group meetings, and they're all publicly available on the commission website. We've also given updates about the child development permit and the progress that's been made during the work group. We gave the first update in August of 23. We gave another of February 24, April of 24. And I am very excited to say on October 18th, I don't know the exact time yet. I've heard it might be before lunch, but on October 18th, which is a Friday, we'll be giving another update to the commission. For those who are interested and follow the commission meetings and the commission agendas, I do want to let you know that we anticipate that child development permit agenda item to be posted hopefully this Friday. If not this Friday, it'll be like soon at the beginning of next week, but we're excited to get that agenda item up. We have literally been working on it for months, and we are ready and excited to present it to the commissioners and to the public and to hear what everybody has to say. That's what it comes down to. This is a democratic process, everybody, and your voice and your perspective matters. So make sure that you share it. It's really important. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shanna, and she's going to talk a little bit more about some resources that we have available for you.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about some resources that from the California Department of Education. The first one is California Educators Together. This is a site that you can go to, and there are a number of different groups that have been created that can support with guidance and resources. And so one of them is the Universal Pre-Kindergarten and pre-kindergarten through third grade group. That's 2 of them. And then there's one on communications. There's also one on expanded learning. So you can find some resources for early learning, expanded learning. And so we will show a QR code in a couple slides that you can go ahead and scan the QR code. If you become a member of the California Educators website, you have access to all of the resources from any of the channels that are there. If you don't want to be a member, there are some resources that are available to you without becoming a member. It's free. You just need an email and a password. I sign in with my Google, so I didn't even need a password. I can just sign in with my Google account. And so 2 additional resources that I want to highlight, and those also can be found on the California Educators Together website, are a Transition to Elementary School Toolkit. This is available both in English and in Spanish, and it offers steps and strategies to strengthen children's transition from pre-K to elementary school. We realized children go through lots of transitions in their life, and so we weren't going to tackle all of them. And so the ones that we tackled were pre-K to elementary school. There are templates and all sorts of resources that you can utilize if you want to create a stronger approach to that transition. The other resource that we have up there is our developmentally appropriate toileting practices toolkit. And this has guidance and information on best practices for supporting children, all children, in their toileting independence. So we know as younger students are entering into TK, and even after the pandemic, students who are coming into our CSBP programs, and we've even received emails from 2nd and 3rd grade students who are struggling with their toileting independence. You will find all sorts of resources in this toolkit. There's checklists and forms that you can have when you meet with families. This was done in collaboration with many groups throughout the state. There's also videos, so we're really excited about that one. And then we just wanted to share that we have P3 webinars that we host about every 8 weeks. And on the slide, you'll see 2 of the more recent ones. You can also find the slides, the presentation, additional resources on our webinars on California Educators Together. And so we're really excited about those. And I can put some links in the chat of how you can sign up for the Early Education Division email and our distribution lists. And then after Renee goes, you'll see a QR code for California Educators Together.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Shanna. We have some resources from the commission as well. And then I promise CDE's code is coming up right after everybody. So just a couple of resources for you. These are specifically focusing, the first 4 are specifically focusing on the PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. We've got a website. We've got a handbook. We've got a clinical practice guide. We've got an FAQ. If it's your first time with PK3, I'd probably start with the FAQ, honestly, and then maybe go to the website from there. We also have a link to the agenda item related to the Child Development Permit Work Group. That agenda item is from April of 2024. As I mentioned, for the October 17th and 18th meetings, the commission meeting, that agenda will most likely will be posted, I believe, Friday afternoon this week. If not, it should be early next week. We definitely encourage you to check that out. On here, we've also included links to the different listservs that we have from the commission. We have one listserv that's specifically related to early childhood education. Debbie Keeler sends out, usually notifies everybody on that listserv about once a month, unless there's like a special thing, then maybe we might send possibly 2 or 3 emails a month. And then the PSD News, that is the newsletter from the commission's professional services division. That PSD News comes out every Friday at about 3 to 3:30. I will tell you, before I was at the commission, that was my Friday afternoon reading at work every single week. Literally, I would scour through, I'd look for finance, like if there was any grant resources, if there was upcoming webinars, just there's so much in that PSD News. If you don't currently subscribe, it's definitely worth it when you get the slide deck to click on this link and get yourself subscribed to those. As I mentioned, PSD News does come out weekly. I also want to share our email. This is the email for the commission ECE team. That includes Bronwyn Kennedy, myself, and Dr. Debbie Keeler. You can email us at ece@ctc.ca.gov. And the great thing about that is that email shoots to all 3 of us at the same time. So whoever is quickest to answer will get to you. And if you would like to meet with us, or if you have any questions, or if you have a group that you'd like us to come and do a presentation for, Like I've said before, we are here in partnership. We are ECE people, everybody, and we are here to be of help. That's important to us. Also, I want to share in terms of what Department of Ed and what Shanna just shared in terms of resources, everybody dive into those because these are all free resources that are created by leaders in early childhood education. You know, they bring together the best minds to create these resources. And so you definitely want to tap into them. And in terms of those newsletters that Shanna and I just shared, if you ever see a call that says, we need people to come and review the administrative credential, or we need ECE experts for this or that, or when you hear those calls for work groups, sign up. It's not a guarantee. You usually have to go through an application process. I know for the child development permit work group, we had over 100 people apply and only 28 people got on. By all means, if it was up to me, it would be everybody, but that's not how the process works. There are opportunities to engage. And please know that your voice is needed, your expertise is needed. We rely on you to help do this work for California's children. With that, I'm going to hand it to Shanna so she can share her QR code, and then we'll open up for a couple minutes of questions before we wrap for tonight.
Absolutely. So there's the QR code. You can just scan it. I'm also going to put some directions in the chat on how, if you do not have an account, how you can go ahead and get an account. And you will find resources like Renee said, they were created either internally at CDE or we have put on external resources as well on a variety of different topics. So it's really a wealth of information on almost any topic you'd want to kind of cover under the early education umbrella. So yeah, there you go.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and joining us today. We are so excited to be here with you.
And look at that beautiful picture from one of our colleagues at Kidango. I love that. Took that up in Union City. I love when we can utilize pictures that are real, everybody. I think that's one of the best things ever. So right now, I know we are at 5:55 and we're getting close to wrapping. I also want to give a plug. I believe that there's one more session happening. Jerica, hopefully you can speak to this. I believe there's one more session happening for Teach for the Bay tonight. I think it's going from 7 to 8 p.m. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it's focusing on expanded learning and expanded care, which is totally related to what we do in early childhood education. Jerica, did I speak correctly on that? Is it 7 to 8 tonight, I believe? Okay, and you're muted, so we can't hear you. So hopefully, is that I hopefully that's good. Okay. Oh, there we go.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, totally.
You are right. Yes, 7 to 8. Sorry, for some reason I had low bandwidth. Thank you so much for this workshop. Yes, I will put the link to Teach for the Bay, all registration links. So you, if you didn't register for that workshop, you can go ahead and do so and get access to that workshop tonight and all the other that we have planned for the next few days. This was so wonderful and informative. And thank you so much, Shanna and Renee, for, I kind of combined your names there. Shanae.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally into it. We are officially Shanae. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, Jerica, the best thing about this is like Shanna and I totally get along. We knew each other before I joined the commission. So the fact that you did this is just great.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, everybody,
Wonderful.
for being here tonight. If anybody has any questions, we'll stay on for a couple minutes. We also want to honor that it's been a long day for many of you. So do not feel like you have to, ask questions. I do want to also, I'm going to put our email in the chat for the commission, our commission team and ECE. If you would like to meet with us at any time, we are absolutely happy to meet with you. And if you want any additional information about what Shannon and I talked about today about the ECE workforce, we are here in partnership. And we're just so grateful for you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Shanna put the UPK email in the chat too. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute. And if not, we'll just hang out for a few minutes.
I have a quick question, Renee.
Yeah.
This may be for Shanna, I'm not sure, but it could be for both of you. But I'm wondering because, you have to go through like kind of a hiring spree in about a year, less than a year. And given like the stages of recruitment that people are still going through at the county, and at the university level, just to get people credentialed. Has anyone, and likely the likelihood that we're going to fall short of meeting, the number that we need. Has anybody reached out to AmeriCorps to sort of have a national sort of like reach when it comes to recruitment?
Shanna, can you speak to that? I'm not sure if
I'm not sure either. That's a
Yeah.
great suggestion and one that I will definitely go back and ask about. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like Robbie, I'm not sure either. So let me see if we have any sort of partnership, or let me see what I can find out. Okay. Because it would make sense that they would be part of this and part of the conversation, and, just any of the groups that are going out and trying to help recruit for teachers. And so let me check on that, because I don't know for sure that we're in conversation with that, Robbie. So, and if for some reason you have a direct contact there, also, if you don't mind, shoot it to me, because it's always easier when we can reach out to somebody directly. If not, though, you know me, I won't be shy.
I don't have a direct contact, and you'll probably shoot at like a higher level than I could, but I think it would probably be a great way to move forward with recruitment, at least in one track.
I think it's a fantastic suggestion, and it's definitely something both of our agencies need to look into. So thank you, Robbie. See, this is all about having brilliant thought partners here. And it's always exciting when we come together. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything else they'd like to share before we start to wrap? Oh, yes, I see a hand.
Yes. So I was wondering, is there a webinar session or a conference session where I can get access to like different job paths, different career paths after getting the child development permit?
You know what? Let me see. By any chance, is Kathleen White still on the session, everybody? I can't see participants, but if Kathleen White's on, she would probably be the best person. Kathleen or Tracy?
Yeah, we do. I think both of them may have gone, but we do have we do have sessions for regional employers. We have, if that's kind of what you were wondering about, I'm going to drop the link to the program so that you can see what's coming up for the coming days. So we have sessions by regional employers. We have sessions related to credentialing and transferring. We have sessions related to we had a session today related to financing your education. So there's so many different aspects that are covered in the conference. And if you weren't able to, or you can't attend anything, I just want to encourage you to go to the Teach for the Bay website in the coming weeks, because all of the recordings will be posted inside the website so that you can attend, or view a session that we had if you weren't available to attend. So make sure that you're reaching back in there. And then just in closing, I want to encourage folks to fill out the evaluation form. I've dropped it in the chat, and everything is still open, free, and virtual for all of the coming sessions. So definitely take a look at what's happening and consider attending, and these resources will be available to you on our website. Thank you again to the presenters. It's 6:01, so we should close for the night, but appreciate everyone for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And Jen,
you.
if you want to meet about pathways, shoot me an